I refuse to do any project that is going to acknowledge how hot it actually is. I am in full autumn mode, which means that I think it's time for Cheapy to Creepy Part 2. First time I did this, folks loved it. That's where my little faux taxidermy things came from. Come with me and we will upgrade some cheap shit. Let me show you what I've got. So I have a little collection here of things that I have procured over the last few weeks, maybe even months, with the intention of making them a little bit spookier. As most of you probably know, I love picking up these little Christmas houses and turning them into haunted houses. I have given this just a black coating of matte spray paint. We will spookify this a little bit. I have this frame, which is super cheap, with a coating of black paint and some zhuzhing. I think we can actually make it look pretty good. I also picked up this plain white, kind of nondescript house that I want to try to turn into something a little more rundown and broken. I think we're going to make some butterflies as well. We may not use them, but I think they'll come in handy. So with all of that in mind, let's get to thrift flipping. Let's get to frippin'. Let's get to flipping some of these things. I think my marching orders for right now are to paint the house. Get those done. I'll do a coating of black on that frame and just see what that ends up looking like. And while my frame dries, I decided to move on to the first house. So I want to try to bring out the highlights in this. I want to make it look like Norman Bates's mother's house. So with the coat of black, I'll punch up some of the highlights. I also have some fake moss that I'm gonna attach to it because I do love some good moss. Probably cover up where the snow goes. And we'll see how that turns out. Love my little house. I think this guy looks so freaking good, both from the front and from the backside, because sometimes you feel like a nut and sometimes you don't. Next, I wanted to try making butterflies out of felt to maybe do something pretty along with all of the spooky stuff. So first I traced half of a butterfly onto a piece of paper and I cut it out. From there, I drew on all of the black details and lines using black acrylic paint. I glued it together with some wire in the back so I could pose it, and I ended up with really cute butterflies. Welcome to day 2. In reality, it is many more days after day 2, but we are hodgepodging this together because my ideas keep changing. So here are some things that we are actually going to do to wrap this up. Number 1, the house that we put together, that we turned into our spooky house. My goal for this is to turn this into a Baba Yaga house. I'm very excited about that. Also, the plain white house that I bought, I painted it, but I don't like it. So I think what we're gonna do is actually put some siding on it and some stones and see how that turns out. So first and foremost, let's start with our Baba Yaga house. So in order to prepare this little house to become Baba Yaga, and it's gonna be more like suburban soccer mom Baba Yaga rather than witch in the woods Baba Yaga, because I don't know of any witch cottage that kind of looks like this. But the first thing I've done is put just a little wooden plate at the bottom of it. I don't know if this is gonna work, but it needed something, and now I'm thinking maybe I can just quickly drill a hole in this to stick the legs in. Otherwise, maybe I can bend them and attach, like glue them to this. Maybe. I'm not super sure, but let's figure it out. For this, I'm just using some wired stems from fake florals that I got and kind of bending it into chicken leg shapes. And for the base, I'm just using a piece of 1.5 inch insulating foam that I can stick the wires into and then build the feet on top of it. Instead of drilling into my wooden plate, I decided to just try hot glue for now. It seems to be sticking, but don't look underneath it because it is a hot glue mess. After about a stick and a half of hot glue, I decided to let it sit and dry and move on to the White House. The first thing I needed to do with the White House is cut some siding. I'm just using white PVA glue for this and hoping that it sticks. It did, so that's a good method to use, I guess. And then I'm just overlapping this like you would see in regular siding. And then I'm using these really cheap rocks that I got from the dollar store to create some really fancy stonework around my windows and doors. All right, I have the whole house completely covered in faux siding, stoned on the back, looking pretty good. So I think the next step is I want to paint all of the siding like a dirty gray, kind of thinking like houses that are by the sea or something. But I also am going to dry brush some lighter colors onto this stone so it sticks out a little bit more. We'll get that done and then see if we need to add anything else to make it look even creepier. I think it's time for this guy to get a little bit of grunge. It's already pretty grungy, but I'm thinking moss. Surprise, surprise. Because I do love some moss. So we'll put some plant material on this guy, and then I think it'll be done. Part of the reason why I really like adding fake moss and things is because it covers up all of the sins of what I haven't done well. Like right here, got a little blank spot. I can just put some moss there and nobody will know. And I have been using hot glue to put moss down, but I've actually found that the white glue is better, and then I can move it around just a little bit slower. So that's Moss 101 from Katie. Now I think this stuff is fake, but this stuff I got off of my patio. So we're gonna mix real moss with fake moss. But the real stuff is full of dirt, so you kind of have to knock all that off before you smush it in. Once I got all of the moss put in, I added a little sign just to give it a little something extra. And the White House is done. I decided to move on to the frame and keep it fairly simple. I just used PVA glue and a bunch of moss. And because I wanted it to look fancy, I added the butterflies too, and I think that part turned out pretty dang well. Let's make some chicken feet. I've never done this before, so it should be good. This stuff doesn't really feel real. It doesn't feel like it should do anything even remotely close to what clay does. So we'll see what we get out of it. Here we go. We're gonna see if we can fashion some chicken feet out of chewing gum. I need a reference for these chicken feet because I can't say that I've looked at chicken feet that much. So we're gonna use this as a reference and just see if it works. This kind of creeps me out more than it should. They turned out more like finger fingers rather than chicken fingers. We're gonna see how they dry. I might end up putting some feather pantaloons under here eventually, but not quite yet. But there are my Baba Yaga chicken feet. Other than that, she looks pretty good. I've never made one before, so I think we're looking pretty good. She's gonna dry, and I'll come back, we'll get her painted, and we'll be pretty close to done. once she got a manicure and a healthy amount of moss and sticks, she was done. So I think it's time for the reveal of all of my cheapy to creepy part 2. Ta freaking da. These might be my favorite cheapy to creepies that I have ever done. I mean, the Baba Yaga house is almost perfection. So will I probably end up with 15 more Baba Yagas? Yeah, probably. And I'm not gonna apologize for that because they're awesome. I don't have a whole lot to say about this because I just think that it is pretty dang cool. So maybe this is something you want to try for yourself. It's pretty cheap. You know, certainly the little houses can be very cheap if you find them at thrift stores or even yard sales. Use cheap paints and cheap glue. Get moss from outside. You know, I don't think any of it has to be super expensive. I think the foam clay is probably the most expensive part of the whole thing. Pretty great. Gotta wait for my son to come back. And I would love to know if you can think of any other type of spooky house that I could make. You know, the Baba Yaga, that was pretty cool. And I did not go into this intending to make one. So there has to be other options out there. What else could I use these little houses for? Put those comments down below because I am genuinely interested. So that's it. I would like to thank all of my makers over on Ko-fi. It is because of you guys that I get to do things like this. So thank you so much for supporting me and this channel. If you would like to become a maker, it is only $2 a month. And you get your name on screen. You get to support all the shenanigans over here. If you don't want to become a maker, that's okay. No big deal. Nothing else changes. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up because it was pretty cool. If you didn't like it, you could give it a thumbs down. That's fine. And let me know, what kind of house could I make next? The Baba Yaga was a nice little surprise, so there has to be other options out there that I haven't thought of yet. Leave those in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!